For those of you who eat cod, you probably noticed you've never seen cod on any sushi menus. Just because cod does contain worms, and if ingested, if they're not cooked and not killed, it could potentially turn into a parasite. But you find them burrowed in the flesh. Let me see if I can find another one. It's funny. Some batches of fish you find lots of them, and then some of them you don't find any.
Yeah.
There's one. See it right there? See it moving?
Oh, yeah, it's alive.
Okay, so boom. You could see it, I guess, probably better against the white. Where'd it go? There. I'll bring it over here and put it against the white flesh so you can see it a little better. But once cooked, it's harmless. I've probably eaten lots of them unknowingly. Of course, if I see it, I will remove it. But yeah, they're there.
I guess it's something that probably doesn't hurt the cod itself, right? I mean, like the actual fish.
No, a lot of. I know that with seafood, I think there's a lot of things where they can kind of have like some type of symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if it's actually beneficial or if, I guess, at the very least, it's non-harmful. But yeah, codworms, they're out there. They'll get you. All right, so now the fish is done. Got 2 pans this size filled with it. And what I'll do is I have a refrigerator in the basement. So I put it down there to cool overnight, bring it down to a cold temperature. It'll firm up, and you never want to vacuum seal when something's like warm or wet, because it doesn't work good. So I find it's best to let it cool overnight, bring it down to temperature, let it firm up, and then tomorrow I'll vacuum seal it. So this will probably give me between the 2 trays I have, plus the 5 days I have worth over there. It's probably about 19, 20 days, almost 3 weeks worth of stuff. So it'll be a while before I have to do it again. So. Okay, something I want to show you guys is like one of my favorite. It's a salad. It contains beets and carrots, and I know I'm probably not the only one out there who, when you're getting ready for a competition, sometimes you have a tendency to get constipated, and for whatever, I don't know exactly what the reason is, but things tend to slow down. And this, I forget how I came upon it, but I started eating beets last year, and I noticed a huge improvement in my digestion and in my regularity. And the more I read about it, I said that beets are actually one of the best things for cleaning your liver. That beets just are great for your liver, and which makes sense because your liver has a lot to do with your digestion and regularity and things like that. So it's something I would definitely recommend, and honestly, it tastes great. I'll show you guys how I do it. It's best if you have a good size beet, because the little ones, if you're going to spend the time to peel it, which I guess you could grate it with the peel on, but it's going to have kind of an earthy, muddy taste. But if you're going to spend the time to peel it, it's easiest just peeling a big one rather than peeling a bunch of small ones. The bigger one's easier to handle as well. And actually, one of the things I read about beets is I believe it's in Hungary. They use beets. Beet therapy as a treatment for cancer. It's one of the pigments in the red beet is associated, I don't know, with I forget what the chemical was or what the nutrient was, but something that has strong anti-cancer properties. So they always talk about eating things that are colorful. How colorful things are. Very nutrient dense and really healthy. So I mean, you have 2 things. I mean, so orange and so red, and this is so green, and it's like it must just be good for you. And I like to use the fine side of the grater. It gets it, it breaks it down that much more, and it brings out a lot more of the sweetness, as opposed to if you use the coarse side of the grater. Finely grating things, like when they make, I know when they make wasabi, or if you were to take horseradish, and if you were to take a bite off of it, it wouldn't be very hot. But once you grate it up and it breaks it down and it releases certain oils, it brings out certain properties. And horseradish being a root and carrot being a root, I think carrot is best. Same thing, finely grated. It might look like you just, took part in a massacre. So. It's nothing you can't wash off. Do keep in mind, if you eat beets, probably when you go to the bathroom, when you take a dump, it's probably gonna turn red. So you don't have to worry that you're like hemorrhaging internally. It's just the beets. Good for your delts too.
A little arm workout in it.
Some people go, oh my God, but carrots and beets, so much sugar. I think it's best if you eat some meals during the day where there's no starchy carbs in it, where it's just going to be protein and like some type of veggie. I think it's best to do a salad like this at that time versus combining it with rice or potatoes. It's better by itself. I mean, you'll burn. You should burn right through those carbs. Carrots are actually really good for helping your body to expel worms and parasites. So if you decided to get all that cod and eat it raw, back it up with some grated carrot. All right. So I got the beets and the carrots in the bowl. After that, all I do is add a little bit of white vinegar, like maybe a tablespoon. And then just a little bit of apple cider vinegar. And just give it a good mix. Even though you got the carrots in there, the whole thing is going to turn red from all the pigment in the beets. But both carrots and beets, both really good source of potassium. And I'm not against sodium, not by any means. I think it's actually really important, but I think most people probably take in way too much sodium compared to how much potassium they take in. Because a lot of people don't eat much in the way of fresh vegetables, which is really where you're probably going to get most of your potassium. Although red cod is super high in potassium, spinach is high, obviously bananas. And actually white beans, beans in general, I think are very high in potassium. But if you're buying canned beans, usually they add salt to it, so it's kind of negating it, unless you buy unsalted or unsalted beans. But so this is probably enough for about 2 servings. I'll split that up, add a little bit of salt to it, and that's it. It's actually really good. Another thing beets say really, really good for is the production of nitric oxide and lowering blood pressure. They actually say generally not to eat them by themselves or to drink beet juice by itself because it could drop your blood pressure quite a bit. I don't know how true that is. I've never felt lightheaded or anything from eating beets, but this is something I would highly recommend. I think you guys, if you try this, you'd really enjoy it. I was never really a fan of beets. So I always pictured like, canned beets and it's mushy and ugh. But fresh, and grate them up with some fresh carrot and the vinegar. And honestly, dude, it's really sweet, and the vinegar gives it's a nice tang. And then eating it with like chicken or something, it really helps it go down. And I think you guys will notice a big improvement in your digestion if you do it consistently, in your regularity. You'll feel a lot lighter in your midsection. So you might want to give it a shot.